Hello everyone, in this video I'll be explaining to you why in road racing people tend to run with non-collide scripts. Non-collide meaning that driver 1 is not able to hit driver 2 and that everyone is able to drive through each other in a race. You may be wondering, why? Why can't we just have collisions and be able to ram other drivers or just run side by side with each other? Why do we have to drive through each other? Why can't we collide with each other? To answer this question, we first need to understand how Roblox connections work. Basically, if you decide to move your character, other players will need your updated position, because your character changes position when you move your character. When you move your character or perform an action, your game will send data to a Roblox server, which will then send information to the other players' games. This is so other players will actually get to see your movement. This does not happen instantly, however, because that piece of data of your character moving has to travel a certain distance in real life, so they have to run through a cable to get from place A, your player, to place B, the other player. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but according to Roblox it takes on average about 0.3 of a second to send your data to other players. Therefore, your character movement is delayed by about 0.3 of a second on someone else's screen. At the same time, you get to see the movements of other players 1.3 seconds late. This also applies to cars. Let's imagine that there are two players. One of the players is driving the blue car, while the other player is driving the red car. Imagine that those two players press their W key at the exact same time in real time. That means that their cars should both start moving at pretty much the exact same time. From the server's perspective, and often from the perspective of a spectator as well, so from a third player that might be spectating the two drivers in their cars, those two players do move in sync. However, when we start looking from the perspective of the player in the blue car, we will see that he gets to move first on his screen, the other player's movement being delayed. When we start looking from the perspective of our player in the red car, we will see the exact opposite. Here he is, the one pulling away first, with the player in the blue car falling behind. In this example, the delay between the two players is 0.2 seconds, not 0.3 seconds, so this difference can be more extreme in actual gameplay. I think some of you might understand how this translates to collisions as well. For those who don't understand or are struggling to wrap their heads around it, let's have a look at some jailbreak gameplay. Yes, jailbreak. In jailbreak, we can actually collide with other cars, so this would be a good example to have a look at. In the first clip, we can see me trying to ram another player from behind. This does not end well for me. What is happening is that I do hit the player from my perspective, but not from his perspective. If I want to ram another person off the road or off the track, I have to drive in front of him on my screen, then cut right in front of him. I have to be a certain distance ahead of him in order to make this work. Depending on the internet connection and on how fast we are going, this required distance can vary. Sometimes I have to be a little bit further ahead of the person, and sometimes I have to cut just literally right in front of that person. What is for certain is that this distance increases when we are traveling faster, because within the same time we cover more distance. What's happening on his screen is that I'm hitting him from the side, therefore he gets rammed off by me. I think by now you see what the problem is with running collisions in road racing. Due to the positioning of other players being inaccurate, what's going to happen is, if we run a race with collisions, is that people are going to collide with each other unintentionally. As a member of the road racing community who has been around before the introduction of anti-collision scripts, basically before anti-collision groups existed on Roblox, I can tell you that league racing and racing in general with collisions would often result in a lot of frustrated drivers because of all the unintentional collisions that are happening on track. Now, there is actually a way around this, well, sort of, because this solution has a downside. That solution is that your own movement gets delayed as well. However, this comes at a drawback of having to deal with input delay yourself now, which can ruin the driving experience if you are racing around twisty circuits. If you look at my driving without input delay, which you can see on screen right now, you can see that I have a relatively easy time maneuvering my car around the circuit. But when we add some input delay, so when my movement is delayed by 0.3 seconds, you can clearly see that I'm struggling a lot more, that I often don't make the corners and I'm basically too slow to respond, and it's going to take a lot of adapting. And of course, if you have to react all of a sudden to another car crashing, yeah, you have to react really quickly because your car only responds 0.3 seconds later. And here you go. Here's the reason why most leagues in road racing run anti-collide scripts, and why it is generally a pretty bad idea to run collisions in races. I hope you have learned something new from this video. Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like on this video. That's it for now. Have a very nice day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.